Good morning, guys. Come on in. How was your weekend? You guys, I was out of town. I was in Orlando this weekend, taking in all the conferences and the information to be the best lawyer I can be for you guys. Some of y'all are my clients. Some of y'all are potential clients. I don't know what y'all are waiting on. Y'all better come on and do what you need to do. Oh, that's good. Sheikh Bim Talib, Wayne Chair, Abims, good morning, guys. Tag your friends. Good morning, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We're out here getting the information out on all the platforms as best as we possibly can, because that's the only way we're going to reach as many people as we possibly can reach. Today, I'm just going to keep it super light because I find that a lot of people, they're just like general questions that they kind of want to have answered. So I have some questions that I got in my DM. Folks, be sliding the DMs. So I have my DM questions here, and I'm going to answer them for you guys. If this is your first time tapping in, I am your fierce and fabulous Kiki James Skillman, coming to you live from Minneapolis, Minnesota. But I have clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live, I can represent you because it's immigration law and it's federal. So I have clients here in the Twin Cities. I have clients in New York, in DC, in Montana, in all the places. So if you have a question, you can go ahead and put it in the comment. Yeah, what's up, Teddy? Oh, I know you're ready for next weekend. Or is it this weekend? I have my notification button turned on, though. I'll be checking in to get the play-by-play. Thank you. So today we're just going to go through some basic questions on like filing and who qualifies for what, when you can file for a work permit, when you qualify for a work permit, can you hop over from a marriage green card over to a VAWA green card, what that process looks like, what happens when your spouse lies on you to immigration and tells immigration that you married them for a green card, things like that. So I'm just going to give it like a few more seconds and so folks to tap in so folks can wake up, and then we'll get going. Yeah, it was hard waking up this morning. I'm not even going to lie. My flight got in at like midnight. I'm exhausted. All right. Oh, it's this weekend, Teddy. Okay, that's gonna be my weekend entertainment. All right. So, guys, here's a question that I got in my DM, and these questions sometimes I feel like people should know, but they really don't, and that's why we keep bringing this information out here. Someone says, "Can my spouse petition for me even though I have overstayed?" So, as an immigration attorney, I'm like, well, yes, but also it depends. So if you've overstayed your visa in the United States, depending on how you entered, if you have a visa, that means you entered with inspection. If you are married to a U.S. citizen, yes, they can petition for you, okay? If you are married to a green card holder, they can still petition for you. However, you're going to have to leave the United States and consular process in your home country. The issue with that typically is that depending on how long you've overstayed, you may have triggered something called either the 3-year bar or the 10-year bar. So if you've overstayed for more than 180 days, 6 months, you trigger the 3-year bar. If you've overstayed for over a year, you trigger the 10-year bar. So now you need a waiver. So the answer is it depends. So if let's say you entered as a visitor or as a student, and you've been here, say your visa expired in 2015, and now we're in 2018, you meet some, gorgeous, handsome, beautiful partner, and the partner is a U.S. citizen, you're good, assuming you meet all the other requirements to adjust your status. You can get your green card here in the U.S., you don't have to leave. If your partner, your spouse that you're married to legally in the United States is just a green card holder, well, my question always is, why is this person not a citizen? Why haven't they filed for citizenship, right? If there's a reason why they haven't filed, I get it. Some people sometimes have to kind of wait a little longer or just kind of avoid citizenship altogether, because if they try to apply for citizenship, it could trigger some other issues. So the person's a green card holder. Unfortunately, if you've been out of status that long, they can file the I-130, but you would have to leave to consular process in your home country, Nigeria, Liberia, Mexico, wherever you are from. And then if you need a waiver, we do the waiver. All right. So that's the answer to that. Let's see. Can I work without authorization in the United States, and will that affect my ability to get my green card? This, again, is a response that has to do with who is petitioning for you. Is your spouse a U.S. citizen or green card holder? If your spouse is a green card holder, that's a problem. You cannot adjust your status in the U.S. if you've worked without authorization. If your spouse is a U.S. citizen, you get a pass. So y'all need to be looking for the U.S. citizen partners. That's what y'all need to be looking for. All right. If I enter the U.S. unlawfully, meaning you entered without inspection, you crossed the border, whatever reason, you did not enter the visa, can my spouse still petition for me? When it comes to this, whether your spouse is a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, it does not matter. If you enter the U.S. without inspection, unfortunately, you cannot adjust your status in the U.S. The only exceptions are, there was a provision called 245I, where if someone had filed for you, I think the date was like April 30th or April 1st of 2001. Don't quote me on the exact date. It's either April 1st or April 30th of 2001. You were grandfathered in. Or if you are a VAWA petitioner or some other humanitarian, T visa, U visa, and you're self-petitioning, entry without inspection will not bar you from getting your green card in the United States. Okay, you guys. The point is not for me to run on here and just, you're supposed to ask me questions. I know you, if you guys are on here, it means you have questions. So what are your questions? Who has a VAWA petition possibly pending and you filed on your own and now you're scared because you don't know what to do because maybe you filed it without any evidence and you had no idea what you were doing because why would you know? VAWA cases are very complicated. Who here has a marriage green card pending right now and your spouse is threatening you to withdraw the petition? Guys, it feels so weird not having any of my jewelry on, but I was just too tired this morning. But who on here has a spouse that is threatening them to withdraw the petition? Your spouse has you working because they got you a work permit and now they feel as though they can treat you inhumanely and are asking you to run over all the money that you're working because they got it for you. We got a question on Facebook. Why do you think the immigration process is taking longer? I know. I don't, it's the government, it's COVID, it's bureaucracy. Yes, that's why. So someone asked a question on Facebook, says, why do you think that makes the immigration process taking longer when some family members live so far away? Unfortunately, in our office, there's certain things that we do to help move the process along. Like we'll do a congressional inquiry. We fight for our clients. We'll do a service request. We follow up. That's why we charge the way we charge, because we really do work hard. Your case doesn't just sit, but there are also other things such as processing times that we cannot control. We'll do the best that we can, but you know what? At the end of the day, there are other people that are in line and you kind of have to wait till your time comes up. But on our end, what we do is we keep your name and your case number and your file in the forefront, like active. Because sometimes some files just sit on the shelf and collect dust. I mean, it really does happen. Okay, there's a question on Instagram. I have a prima facie and filed for a prosecutorial discretion in May, and I have a court date. Is that a good thing? Typically, when you have prosecutorial discretion, you shouldn't have a court date, because your prosecutorial discretion means that your case is kind of taken off the docket until you have an approval of what's pending. The fact that you have a court date may mean that you were not granted. I don't know who filed it for you. Did you have a lawyer? Did you not? It's kind of hard to say. In our office, when we ask for PD, it's typically granted because we show that there's good cause to exercise the prosecutorial discretion and put the case, either administratively close the case or completely terminate proceedings and then leave it to USCIS. So that's really kind of hard. I hope you have an attorney who's assisting you with that. All right. I need to know if you're in asylum and I need to know if you are in still pending and want to leave the country to see family in some other country. Is it possible to get advanced parole, or is it advisable? So straight up, I don't do any asylum. I did it many years ago. I've stayed away. I'm not really sure what the law on asylum is currently. If you can travel to a third country, Possibly, I'm not really sure. I would not advise you because I don't really deal with that area a whole lot. I don't deal with asylum at all. I will tell you though, for my clients who are doing adjustment of status, they're able to travel out of the U.S. with their advanced parole. So I would strongly recommend seeking an attorney who handles asylum cases, who knows what the status is with those right now. Come to me for your marriage green card cases. Come to me for your VAWA cases, your removal of conditions, your fiancé visas. That's what I handle. All right, so let's go on to the next question. What is a FOIA and why is it? You're welcome, Mona lives forever. What is a FOIA and why is it important? Okay, so a FOIA basically is called Freedom of Information Act. What it means is you have a right, or your attorney or anyone that has your interest, to ask for your complete file from USCIS, right? So everything that has to do with you, USCIS, CBP, OBIM, EOIR. EOIR is the court, CBP is Border Patrol, OBIM is fingerprints. They're like 4 different departments. USCIS is where you submit like your marriage green card applications. If you've ever had a case in court, deportation, that's EOIR. It's important because when you hire a new lawyer, I need to know what's in your immigration past. It's like when you go to the doctor. I'm going to use a lot of doctor analogies because I feel like a lot of what we do is I can compare it to a doctor. So when you go to a doctor, the first thing they do is they request your records from your previous doctor, right? Because hell, this doctor needs to know, what surgeries have you had? Have you had a triple bypass? Have you had this? Have you had that? They need to know, so that would kind of inform their assessment moving forward. And so when you come to me for me to do a proper diagnostic and prognosis of where we're going with your case, I need to know what you filed, what your previous attorney filed, what the outcome was, what notes USCIS put in there. Was there a charge of marriage fraud? Was there all these things? So we have to ask for request a FOIA, and there is a fee for that because we have to request it and review it and do an analysis, okay? So if you come to me with a previous case, we're going to do a FOIA. If you don't do a FOIA, that's not a problem. You can go to an attorney who's not going to be diligent and just take on your case without knowing what happened in the past. All right, so that's what a FOIA is. Here's another question. Do I have to translate? Hello, Abims. Do I have to translate my documents for USCIS? Absolutely, right? So unfortunately, we're not in a place right now with USCIS where they're willing to take documents in different languages, French, Swahili, Spanish, German. They're not interested. As far as they're concerned, you're submitting an application to them. It needs to be submitted to them in the English language. So if your birth certificate is in Spanish, it must be translated. And we submit the original in Spanish and the translated version to USCIS. All right, so that is what that is. Okay, do I have to submit my medical report? You do not initially, right? And that's one thing that people get kind of like caught up on and they get stressed out. There's some people who have to pay upwards of $500 to get their medical exams done. I don't know, no insurance, whatever. And that can be a financial burden when you're also paying your attorney, you're paying USCIS fees, you're doing all that. So no, you do not have to submit your 693 medical report at the outset. That can be submitted later. Okay, we got a question on Instagram. Is it possible to just file for my stepkids with a green card? I just filed once. Okay, so a couple of things. Your stepkids, it would depend on, for them to be your stepchildren, how old were these stepkids when you married the mother, whatever, the person who is their true parent. If they're under 18, they're considered your stepchildren when now that you're a citizen. And your stepchildren are your children under immigration law, like your real children, and they can possibly automatically become citizens if they're under 18 years old. Okay, so at this point, what you would file for them wouldn't be an N400, it'll be an N600. Why don't you give us a call? Let's do a consultation. And also, the children here in the United States, there are kind of a few things we got to figure out. When it comes to like citizenship for children and green cards, depending where they are, let's do a consultation and assess that. Okay, can I file for advanced parole after getting my EAD? Okay, yes, you can file for advanced parole at any time. The only thing is I kind of wish you would have filed together, because then you don't have to pay. Now that you have to file it separately, you do have to pay the fee. So what we do in our office is, if you're eligible for advanced parole and you're doing an adjustment, we do the employment authorization and the advanced parole all at the same time with the 485 concurrently. That way you don't have to pay the EAD fee and you don't have to pay the advanced parole fee. Okay? Oh, while we're on the topic of advanced parole, a lot of our clients lately have been getting needing to do emergency travel. So if you file for advanced parole and you have your receipt notice and something comes up where you have to travel and leave on an emergency, you can go to your local USCIS office and they can stamp your passport for your emergency travel, even if you don't have the actual card yet. All right? Okay. I hope that answers your question. All right. So, next question. This question says, when I file my marriage green card, do I have to submit any evidence? Yeah. Hell yeah, of course you do. Like, why wouldn't you? I've heard of people and sometimes attorneys who are like, oh yeah, we just submit a bare bones, the form and some basic stuff. Well, that's not what I do. I believe when you submit your case to USCIS, you need to submit as much as you possibly can. Now, I understand that some people, if you just got married and you're trying to get the application in, you may not have a lot of assets, may not even have a bank account, may not even really have a real apartment, you're living with your family members, your parents. That's fine. Put together as much as you possibly can, right? To show that the marriage was bona fide from its inception. Whatever photos you have, whatever text messages, whatever friends and family can write on your behalf. Certainly you have your wedding photos, right? I don't care if you got married in your living room, in your backyard, a friend officiated. Let's see those photos. Let's see the photos. Okay. Not just the photos, but any other evidence that you have. Submit as much as you possibly can. You can always supplement at the interview, or if they are FE, but definitely submit as much as you possibly can. Okay. As usual, Facebook is sleeping and YouTube, but Instagram is jumping. All right. Okay, so here's a question on, let's see, we have another question here. There's some questions on interviews. So I don't know who has an interview coming up. If you guys have a marriage interview coming up. Here's a question on losing your green card. Someone says, do I lose my status when I lose my green card? The answer is no. You only lose your green card if, you commit some sort of a crime that strips you from that privilege and possibly, you'll be heading to deportation proceedings and then eventually deported. But losing your green card does not mean you lose your status. It just simply means that you've lost the card. So you can always apply for a replacement of your card, and it's a Form I-90. You submit the application and you check off that you lost your card. You submit all the other information that they need, and USCIS will process that. We do a lot of green card renewals, a lot of green card replacements. It does not mean that you no longer have your status. If you need to travel, that is a situation where you would have to go to ask for an InfoPass appointment and go to your local USCIS and get a stamp, and you can use that to travel while the petition for your renewal is pending. We do that a lot for our clients where, they've lost their green card, but they filed for a new one, they don't have it yet, and they need to travel. Hi, everyone who just tapped in. Good morning, guys. Good morning. I wasn't going to be on here long today, but the questions are coming in, and so I'm going to answer one more question, right? So someone says, how do I prepare for my marriage green card interview and what to expect? So the marriage green card interview, and I'm telling you guys because I've experienced it, because as most of you guys know, I got my green card through my husband, who's a U.S. citizen, after law school. I was pregnant with our first son, and they still grilled me. And honestly, I was surprised. Like, that officer really was trying to go, they had looked at my Facebook, because yes, they will definitely look at your social media. And he was trying to like piece two things together that were so irrelevant. And I'm sitting there looking like, I am like 8 months pregnant. You're really doubting the legitimacy of this marriage? So here's how you prepare for your interview. First, make sure you have reviewed both of your applications. I-130 for your U.S. citizen green card holder spouse, I-485 for you as the immigrant. Make sure you know your information, like little basic things like when you got married, like the day you got married, each other's birthdays, you know, your in-laws' names. How many siblings does your partner have? Where do they work? When do they go to work? Where do they work? Where do you work? Where did you meet? When did you meet? I mean, I've had clients because I prep all my clients before we go in for an interview, and they're sitting in front of me. I'm like, oh, when did you get married? And they don't remember. And I'm like, what? How don't you know the day you got married? And so I ask these basic questions because these are the questions that USCIS officers ask. If they ask you when you got married, you don't remember, that's a red flag, because definitely you need to know the day you got married. Sometimes at these interviews, they'll separate you. It's called a Stokes interview. That's where the officer is starting to kind of have doubts, and they want to make sure that the questions, they're going to ask you guys the exact same questions, and they have to kind of match. Like if they're a little off, like, where did you meet? And you're like, oh, we met at a coffee shop, and the other person's like, we met at a restaurant. Okay, well, it's a restaurant that also has a coffee shop. I don't know, right? So that's not too off. But if you're like, where did you meet? And one person's like, oh, we met at a grocery store. And the other person's like, we met at a concert. Those are not the same things. They're very different. Or we met in Chicago. Or the other person goes, we met in Vegas. What? Those are not consistent. What's going on here? Are y'all making this up? Like, you should definitely remember what state well, Vegas maybe. Folks, we forgetting things that happen to Vegas. But anyway, my point is, your story has to be consistent, all right? Keep your story consistent. Don't make things up. If you don't remember, say, I don't remember. People forget, like I forget things sometimes. Your in-laws, like if they ask, what's your husband's mother's name? You should know that. You should definitely know your in-laws' names. I don't care if you don't like them. You know what I'm saying? Like mother-in-laws, father-in-laws, in-laws, drama. That's fine, but at least know what their names are. At least for the interview. Remember it for one day. Also, if there's any update in your information, like you've moved, you have a new job, your spouse has a new job, bring that up. When they ask to update your information, update that. Here's one. I want to close with this, right? Because this came up and has come up many times in my interviews, and I always have to check the officers because, you know, smashing the patriarchy, right? When my clients do not change their last names and the officer feels as though it is an indication that the marriage isn't real, I quickly remind them that changing anyone's name is totally up to them. So don't feel if you have not taken your spouse's last name, it's a problem, because it's not and it shouldn't be. And also don't feel like you have to take your spouse's last name, because you do not. You can keep your name. I know a lot of girls, I have someone who her husband took her name. Okay, so it is not an indication that your marriage is not real. It's not an indication that you're up to something funny. It just means that you have a right to determine what your name is. It has nothing to do with your marriage. All right, so if you guys don't have any other questions, I'm gonna log out. Thank you all for tapping in. Feel free to send me a DM with a question that I'll answer for everyone. We are going to start doing, good morning. I'm going to start doing a lot more of these like frequently asked questions, because I feel like people have questions that they're scared to ask. Always remember, if it is something that you're nervous about, more than likely I know what the answer is. So you can always book a consultation, and I'll be happy to have more of that like in-depth conversation with you to figure out what your options are. I always say this is your life. I mean, certainly if you don't live in the United States, then go ahead and DIY it all day long. That way, if you mess it up, you know, it's not a big deal. But if your goal and your plan and your dream is to live in the United States and, you know, reach all your potential that you wish to reach and do what you want to do, then you do not, you know, it's not a Pinterest project, okay? It is not a Pinterest project. So hire a professional, an attorney who's experienced, who knows what the hell they're doing. And not only that, that's going to fight for you with fire. And that's what the hell I do. All right, y'all. Have a lovely rest of your day. I'll see y'all on here tomorrow. Bye.